Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Thriving Adoptees podcast. So today I'm delighted to be joined by Lora K, a fellow adoptee and a really, well, when I spoke to Lora, I think it was last month, we just had a superb conversation. She's really, I think our mindset, philosophy kind of stuff is really closely aligned. And we both like learning from one another. We both learning stuff. So you're in for a real treat here today, and so am I. Right, the more excited I am about the conversation, I think the better. Hopefully, the better it is for you, listeners. And welcome to the show, Lora.
Hi, Simon. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So last time we were talking about epiphanies. So adoption as a lifelong journey, and epiphanies are really the things that help us move along that journey, help us kind of progress on our learning, curve, and as we heal, as we learn more about thriving. And Lora's business is called My Adoptee Truth. So this is all about helping people on the journey. So what do epiphanies mean to you, Lora?
I think that they mean the truth. They mean the revelation of something I wasn't aware of before, or knowledge, the naming of an experience that I had my whole life but didn't have language to describe. And by going on this healing journey, those epiphanies were really, I've had several that have been turning points for me in that healing process.
Yeah. Epiphanies to some sound a little bit religious. So I guess what else would you call them? What other words do you use for them?
Yeah, for me, this particular context is certainly not religious. I call them like aha moments. And are you kidding me moments? Because I've had this thought, this experience, this feeling, and that's what it was the whole time. You know, that just sort of that revelation, the knowledge, and it really comes down to the truth.
Yeah.
Knowing the truth of my experience.
Yeah.
And being able to then fix it, right? And heal and do the work to move through it.
Do the work, yeah. I think aha moments. The thing that came to my mind, and I'm not a Simpsons fan, but apparently he slaps his head and goes, "Go."
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
not a Simpson fan either, but I do know that.
Yeah. Like, I love what you started with, the revelation.
Yeah.
The revelation of the truth, so it reveals something. An epiphany, an insight reveals the truth, and as people say, the truth sets us free.
Yeah, it's not always easy. The truth, it doesn't mean it's easy, but it's information, right? And I think as adoptees, when we don't have our story, we don't know our origin story, we don't know our birth story, we don't know what our parents look like, we spend a lot of energy and a lot of time thinking about that, trying to fill in those blanks. And that's a lot of mental and emotional energy that we put into making up the part of us that we don't know. And when you choose to, let's say, when adoptees choose to search, you're searching for, like, you get to find the truth to that story, and you get to find the truth to your experience, and then you can regulate your system with that truth, and you don't have to spend so much energy wondering.
Yeah.
So,
and the other, as you were saying that, the other thing for me that this is about, and it's a relief.
Yeah, huge relief.
It's a relief, and the it's nothing to do with adoption, but it was a very what should I put this? Yeah, it was a very a deep moment for me about, I don't know, 25 years ago. I was we were on holiday in Greece, and it was a late-ish flight. So we got to the apartment, the flat, whatever, probably about 6:30 in the evening, and then we went out for dinner, and we sat in this little taverna in a square, and as I kind of sat down, and I was going to be away from work for 2 weeks, and I actually felt the weight of work lift off my shoulders.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it was like, no worries,
Yep.
I wasn't in that moment. I'm sure the following day I thought about work, right? But in that moment, I was relieved of the burden of trying to figure out my next move. And that seems to me like an experience. So for me, that was an experience that relieved me. And
I'm so glad you said that. Yes, because that's what I felt. Yeah, I mean, if we want to talk about some of my specific moments on this journey in the Epiphany conversation, that is exactly it. It's relief, and it was just relief in the knowing, and relief in the naming, right? And the relief in the release of that I was carrying around this burden that I didn't need to carry anymore.
Yeah. I'm gonna go somewhere. I love the release. We all love alliteration. Who doesn't love alliteration? Yeah, we've got revelation, we've got relief and release. Yeah. And I'm going to try something a little bit strange here, right? So the Frozen song, Let It Go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What's the it?
Well, for me, it was lots of things.
No, in the show.
In the show, in her show, in Frozen.
Yeah, well, what's the it? What's the it that we're letting go?
Well, she's hidden away, right? When they find out she's magic, she's hidden away. And the Let It Go song comes when she's free, when she comes out and says, I'm going to be who I am, no matter, regardless. Now you get to see who I am. So I don't know, to me, you kind of surprised me with that question. So that's my initial gut response.
Yeah. I asked somebody, a guy, I swim most days, and I know the guys and girls that work at the swimming pool, and the Let It Go song was playing, and I stopped when I got to the end, and I shouted up to the lifeguard guy called Nick, what, this song, Nick? She's singing Let It Go. What is it? What is it that we're letting go of? And he went, I said, it's a bit of a wacko question, isn't it? He said, is it a thought? Is it a thought? It's a thought. It's a thought. It's a thought. It's an identity. It's whatever. So anyway, that was a bit. It's probably a little bit esoteric. So what comes to mind in terms of those revealing revelations that have given you release?
The first big one was in 2008, I was pregnant with my daughter, and she was my second child, which in adoptees, a lot of times pregnancy initiates our process, right? Of what did we go through as children? What did our moms go through? And so I did not have that with my son, but I had it when I found out I was having a daughter. And so I decided, I was terrified to have a girl. So when I found out she was a girl, I was scared, and I couldn't get around it. I couldn't get over it. And so I was getting concerned about bonding with her and postpartum. And so I went to therapy, and the therapist, by the stroke of the universe, was knowledgeable in adoption trauma, relinquishment trauma. So I offhandedly said, oh, and by the way, I'm adopted. I didn't go because I was adopted. I went because I was scared to have a daughter, and I didn't know why. So I laid out what was going on. And by the end, I said, oh yeah, and by the way, I'm adopted. And she said, oh, okay. Have you ever done any work around that? I said, no, this is the first time I've ever been to therapy. I have no idea how it's supposed to work. And she handed me this book, and she said, let's start there. And it was a book called 20 Things Adoptive Kids Wish Their Adoptive Parents Knew. And in the first few chapters,
this is Sherry's book, yeah?
Yeah. Sherry Eldridge. Yeah.
She's coming on the show
at
some point, ladies and gentlemen, and sorry, and non-binary people, if that's she's coming on the show.
Yeah. So it was her book that I think it was one of her first books, because this was 14 years ago. And in the early chapters of that book, there's an adoptee who says she remembers that feeling, where's my mom? And Simon, I'm 24 weeks pregnant, right? I'm 26 weeks pregnant, something like that. And that all it took were those 3 words, where's my mom? And I was on the floor grieving. I was crying and shaking and becoming my newborn self. It was like I visually saw my newborn self, just tight, crying, scared. And I let that grief wash over me and move through me. And I don't know how long it took. I could have been on the floor for 2 hours. I have no idea. But by the end, that grief had been processed, and that newborn baby curled itself into me and was safe. Like I got to say to her, you're safe now, I'll take care of you. And the relief and the release and the revelation was that I had been carrying around all this grief for 29 years. And when I got off the floor, I was a completely different person. I felt like I saw the world through clear eyes. I had empathy. I just had clarity. And it was a huge relief to me that I was able to get that grief out of my body that had been stuck since I was a newborn baby.
I'm getting tingles all over my body of absolute joy here. Okay. Because what you explained there is like, it's got to be the most hopeful thing I've ever heard. Right? There's all this stuff. I was listening. Did I tell you? I've got a particular bugbear with this. There's a book out at the moment, and it's Oprah and
Dr. Perry
and Bruce Perry.
Yeah.
And he keeps on saying it's just trauma, hope, neuroplasticity. The brain can change. Trauma, neuroplasticity. And it says the same thing. I listened to it for 8 hours. Right, 8 hours, and it's like it says one thing over and over again for 8 hours, and at no point does it give you any hope. It's basically a trailer for him and his therapist, right? And and it's just like, well, what
am I supposed to do with all this trauma?
this healing thing
Yeah.
is so, you know, have you met Emma? Sorry, I've forgotten her name, forgotten her surname. Emma's been on the show. She's got a book out, and she talks about, I will remember it in the end.
Is it Emma Stevens?
Yeah, Emma Stevens.
Yeah, yeah.
Stevens. Okay.
Yeah.
She talks about the mysticism of healing, right? What happened to you was sounds to me like a mystical.
Yeah, it was so transformational. And this is like after my first therapy session, right? Like, I think this is how all therapy is supposed to work. And I'm thinking, wow, no wonder people go to therapy. This is wonderful. But it was organic. It was a natural process. It wasn't like I had to work at it. The grief just knocked me over, and I let it process. I didn't know what was happening in the moment. I remember being in that moment thinking, I have no idea when this is going to stop, how this is happening, how it's working, how I got here, but I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let it happen. Well, there's that phrase, let it go. I'm going to let it process, because it just felt like the next right thing, which is from the second Frozen movie. The next right thing. So yeah.
So, you know, people are going to say, well, how can I have those? Right. So how do you have an epiphany? How do you have an epiphany? So
I don't know. That's the hard part.
Okay. You try new things.
Yeah, you try new things. You're open. Yeah.
You listen to a podcast. You listen to another podcast. You listen to I think the key thing for me, I learned this, so I wrote it down this morning actually. You did not fight the grief.
Right.
So I talk about my volcanic eruption of anger towards my birth mother. Okay. I did not try to fight that. Luckily, the woman that I was talking to, she said, so my words were, my mother didn't love me enough to. There was some swear words, and it was a volcanic eruption of anger. My birth mother, she didn't love me enough to keep me. I didn't use the birth mother. She didn't love me enough to keep me. She gave me this effing consolation prize as an, this teddy bear as an effing consolation prize. And the woman I was with said, I'm a mum, Simon, and I don't think it was like that. And with that, the volcano just stopped because I saw the truth, right? So I was going down this wrong path. My feelings were taking me down a wrong path, and she took me down to the truth, and that is the truth. That is the truth. And 8 years later, I had another epiphany moment when I'm reading the letter about the bear, the teddy bear, and I'm in floods of tears because I realize how wrong I was about the fact that my birth mother didn't love me. The tears washed away the thought to reveal the truth.
Right. Yeah.
So what we were talking about before we started the recording is this idea of out of the fog. So it sounds to me like both of us came out of the fog and into the daylight pretty rapidly on those.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I wasn't looking for that. I didn't know that I was in the fog. I opened that book and I was one person and I read those words and I was a different person, and I wasn't looking for it. It just hit me. And that's when I realized that adoption is rooted in loss. And you know, everybody comes to this table, right, from that perspective. And then we have some work to do to heal from that. And from that point on, I felt like I said, I came 1 foot out of the fog and you said you came out of the fog into the mist. And that described it better for me. Like I was in a mist for 12 years after that, because I felt like I had this knowledge and this experience, and like, but I felt alone. I felt like I was the only person in the world who'd ever had that experience and felt that way. And I couldn't share my truth because I didn't want to be condemned for it.
So you were out of the fog and you were guilty about the fact you were out of the fog?
No. I didn't feel guilty about it. I just didn't feel like I could share it or have anybody else to talk to about it. Like I didn't know any other adoptees, or, you know, I couldn't have any other conversation about it, you know? So I just felt alone. And like I was the only person who felt that way. I didn't feel bad about it. I felt relief. I felt so much better. I was a better person for it.
Interesting where I went there. Interesting where I went there.
Yeah, right.
So I think that the journey for me, as we kind of described it, was fog, mist, and then blue sky.
Yeah.
But this isn't a once and done thing. So what happens? So the idea that's kind of the metaphor that's been running for me for the last couple of days, actually, just yesterday this came to me. So we go fog, mist, blue sky, pure blue sky, and then some clouds appear, and we think there's something wrong about that. We think that enlightenment is a once and done thing, and we're never, you know, we've seen the truth, and then, well, this is me, right? I've seen the truth, I've seen the blue sky, and then some clouds appear, and I get cheesed off about the clouds. Because everybody says it's, you know, they all lived happily ever after.
Yeah.
That's not how it works, is it?
That's not how it works. No. And here's the difference, I think. You know, before, right, when we were both in the fog and didn't know what we didn't know, we part of the journey of coming out of the fog is the finding of the truth and the healing work and the therapy work that we have to do to build up the skills that we didn't have when we were in the fog to deal with being in the fog and coming out of the fog and that whole process. So when the clouds come, now we have skills to deal with those clouds, right?
Well, yeah.
Or not.
Maybe, but
that's my hope. That's my hope.
Yeah. But I think maybe we do, but I think the revelation does the hard work. I think the insight does the hard work.
Yeah.
It's
but
like
then,
it's like,
but then you have the skills. Yeah, that's my hope. I don't know. Sorry, go ahead.
So I often talk about, I haven't done this for a while. I talk about me watching my wife crumple onto the floor when she got the news that her mum was dying of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And me thinking, okay, time to give up smoking, Simon. And the story's a little bit longer, but I won't make it. And then going to the shop and buying what's called an inhalator. So it's a little plastic device with a little bit of nicotine in it, liquid nicotine in it. So the realization that I didn't want to see my wife crumple on the floor when I told her that I'd got lung cancer, that
Mm-hmm.
did the hard work.
Mm-hmm.
The inhalator was the strategy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's and so you insight plus strategy leads to result. But
yeah.
And the more powerful the insight, the more powerful the result. But if you have no insight and you just try the strategies, like it's like building your house without any foundations.
Right. You have to start at the root. Yeah, it has
Start
to
the
come
root.
from the root and the foundation. Yeah, you have to have that foundation to be able to.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So let me try another thing on you. Another idea from the metaphor. Okay. So we are the sky. Yeah.
Yeah. We've
We are
always
the
been the
sky.
sky. Yeah, we've always been.
We are the sky, and we've always been the sky.
Yeah.
Right. The sky was merely obscured by the mist.
Yeah.
And the fog.
Yeah.
And the clouds. The clouds represent, I don't know what. So the fog represents not knowing, doesn't it? The mist, I'm not sure. But the sky was always the sky.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so the sky was always the sky. The sky was always whole. It was just obscured. So healing is returning to where we originally were.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Healing is returning. It's not actually. It's seeing who we always were. It's a seeing thing, not a doing thing.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, I behave differently now that I see differently. I mean,
yeah,
I act differently. I treat people better. I am a better parent because I've done my own healing work. So it's both, I think. It can be.
So it's an unveiling, it's an unlearning, it's a revelation process. It's not doing more, it's undoing. It's some undoing.
Yeah.
And when we see better, we do better.
Yeah.
The whole
100%. Yeah.
The whole thing. Mm-hmm. So the identity as everybody is already whole, they just don't know it.
Yeah. And then, I mean, you layer on our experience, and that's the undoing, right? You have to undo
the layering.
Yeah. Undo the layering. Yeah.
So here's the thing that I came back. It's a bit esoteric, but I came up with this coming back from the swimming pool today. Our conditioning doesn't change our condition. Doesn't change it, it just veils it.
Yeah, it puts it, I mean, for me, I think it put a different lens on how I saw things in my life and myself. And yeah, I had to take that lens off.
So is the lens like the fog, the mist, the cloud? Is it?
Yeah.
Am I stretching the metaphor too far?
I think it's the fog. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, let's jump into some more stuff, because I'm we're the metaphors are in danger of taking over.
Yeah.
Let's get down to some more kind of epiphany moments you've had.
So for 12 years after that moment, when I was pregnant with my daughter, I felt alone and I felt by myself. And then in 2020, when we were all in lockdown, COVID lockdown, I somehow found this adoptee community online. I didn't know it existed before. And that was a huge revelation for me, that I wasn't alone. That was an epiphany moment. And that second, all I needed to know was that I wasn't alone. And, a few minutes of scrolling through posts and comments of people saying the things that I'd been feeling for 12 years or my whole life gave me the strength to take the next step. And for me, that was two things at the time. And that was, well, three things. One, I started therapy again, and I started with an adoptee competent therapist. The first time I got lucky that the person knew a little bit about that. But this time I was focused. So I found an adoptee competent therapist. Number two, I started setting boundaries with my adoptive parents that I didn't know I was allowed to have before. And three, I went on the journey to find my biological paternal side. So in 2008, I found my mom and that whole side of the family after doing the therapy and having that realization. And then 2020, I decided I wanted to find my siblings from my dad. My dad knew that I was coming. My mom approached him. He disappeared. He walked away. So I knew that he had done that once. I sort of anticipated he would do that again, but I wanted to find him, and I wanted to find my siblings and hold him accountable a little bit. So that was the start of the next process, right? Just knowing I wasn't alone was huge for me. And I started devouring podcasts and books and the primal wound and all the things. And starting in therapy with an adoption competent therapist who's an adoptee herself, I had the next sort of big moment where I was talking to her about a concern I had, a worry. And she said, no. This is not how worry works. Like, you don't get to control things with your worry. I think this might be an old coping mechanism for you from being adopted, like hypervigilance. And I went, what? Are you kidding me? Like, this isn't my personality. I thought for 40 years at this point, 41 years, that I was up here all the time with my worry and anxiety because that's my personality. I thought that's how I was wired. And the moment she said that, she named that experience for me, and my whole body just relaxed and regulated. And I went, are you kidding me? Really? I haven't had to be on alert 24/7 my whole life. And so I went through the rest of that session with her, the rest of that day. And I thought for sure I was going to wake up the next day and it was going to be back. And it wasn't. And I walked around my house for a few days, kind of waiting for it to pop out at me, jump out around the corner. Or I even walked into my bedroom and was like looking for, like I had lost a friend, right? This hum in my brain that I had to worry about every detail, everything, every little thing, all the time was just gone. And all it took was her naming it. And my whole body
You're like
just,
a teacher's pet, aren't you?
I,
You're like
I
a
didn't do,
teacher's pet.
I
You're a
didn't do
baffling.
any work. It was, I did not do the extra credit. I just showed up and listened. And I was like, oh my gosh, really? And I just kept waiting for it to come back, and it never did. And just, I think when we're in the fog, when we don't know, and we're carrying around that grief or that pain, whatever it is, before we process it, our system is we're dysregulated. And that was another level of regulating my system again. And my husband could probably be a better testament to this than anyone, but since that moment, my hypervigilance is gone. It's just gone. And I approach my whole life differently, and I approach my kids differently. I have less, it's a control factor, right? Like I let go of the control piece, and I'm just more relaxed. And I even asked my husband, I'm like, is this how non-adopted people feel all the time? Because this is awesome. So
Have you heard the term epiphany, Amber?
yeah.
I'm feeling it right now.
Yeah.
I'm feeling it right now. Yeah.
Good. That's why I want to
still
share my story and this experience, because what if you only needed to hear it named, like I did?
Yeah. So obviously people ask to, I haven't said this for a while on the podcast, but people say, well, how, what do I do? So the good news is, listeners, you're still listening. So you are currently hanging out at the bus stop for insights. So you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You're doing the right thing. You're on the right. We're all on the right. You're on the right track.
Yeah.
You don't need to do anything more. Just hang out with hope. Did you find, when you found the other the adoptees group, did you find people? Well, did you find a lot of people at the same place as you on the journey, or were there more ahead of you, more behind? How did you? Did you even notice that?
Yeah, I did. I did notice that. And I feel like, yeah, I think that everybody's on a different place in their journey and on their timeline at all times. So when I kind of entered the scene, it was, yeah, there were people who were ahead, the same, behind. And now I feel like I'm a little further ahead. And that's why I wanted to share my story. That's why I wrote these illustrated books, because I want to help bring adoptees along on their journey too. And yeah, that's yeah, 100%.
So I have a slight concern about some of the people that I see online who, in my opinion, just my opinion, aren't far enough along the journey to be mentors or influencers. Have you come across anybody like that? I'm not asking you to name them.
Yeah, sure. No. Yeah, I mean, I think that it took me a minute to kind of adjust to, okay, everybody came to this support group for different reasons. Like some people need support from having a bad experience with adoptive parents. Some people need support from having a bad reunion experience. Some people don't know if they even want to search. What does that mean? What does that look like?
Was this in person, this group?
No, it was all online stuff. Although I have done a lot of Zoom groups since then. Like I just jumped in with both feet, into the adoptee community. I just consumed everything I could. And going back to what you were saying about what do you do? How do you, how? Like I listened to every podcast I could find in every episode, and I learned something from every single episode, no matter what that adoptee's background was: transracial, transnational, estranged, not estranged, had a great experience, whatever it was, I got something out of their story. And so that's why I think it's important that we all keep sharing. But I think that, yeah, I mean, I think I've learned to filter comments and, you know, posts and things like that as to, you know,
Yeah.
I kind of filter and kind of just filter that as I go now.
Cool. I'm conscious of time.
Yeah.
I want to recommend everybody check out the show notes for links to Lora's. Sorry, I feel I was just a bit abrupt there.
It's okay. I don't know. I know we chatted a bit before we started recording. And so I'm looking at the time and I'm like, yeah, well, I know what time it is, but I have no idea how long we've actually been recording. Okay. So I have time to keep talking if you'd like, but
yeah,
we can wrap if you want.
I think we've come to the natural point at it, really, is to, if you're just jump in, just try stuff. You know? I think we all learn, you know, like school learning. We all think it's a process, you know, it's a process, and there's rules, and you know, there's going to be, you know, the 5 magic ways that you finally do this, or 6 ways to get your body ready for the bikini, or whatever, you know, like, or if you're like a 55-year-old bloke, how to get rid of your love handles when you're 55, you know, how to wear Speedos, all these sorts of things. We're all kind of, we're brought up on this, and a lot of the a lot of the people on the internet will tell us that, you know, that they found the process, and we have to find our own insights through there's no such thing as a second-hand epiphany.
Right. No, that's true. That's true. You have to have them for yourself. And yeah, we're not here saying this is the answer. It's just, this was my experience. This is what worked for me. And if I can share a little bit and it can help someone else, just a little nugget from this conversation can propel them on their journey. That's what it's about. And yeah, keep listening, keep reading, keep watching, keep engaging, and hopefully you can move yourself along on your own journey.
Yeah. Epiphany propulsion. Yeah. That jet propulsion, I was thinking about your son, and, you know, whether he ever had you know, one of those whoopee cushions, you know, a whoopee cushion.
Oh yeah, we've had whoopee cushions in our house.
When I thought about, you know, Trump propulsion, right? So check out the show notes, listeners, and you'll find links to Lora's to a website, and to books, illustrated books, which are good. I think there's sorry, when I say they're good, I'm going to cough again. Excuse me. What I think is great about Lora's books and the way she's illustrated them, what it does is it forces you to really refine your thinking. So instead of it being vague and woolly, there's a discipline involved in putting something into diagrammatical form, which really helps with concise and precise language. And I think, you know, we're trying to point at things, and if we can, we think in pictures rather than words, don't we? So that's something that makes your books different. So check those out, listeners.
Thank you.
Epiphany propulsion. Do I dare call it? Yeah. I think I will. I'm trying to use different titles and see what works. You know. Yeah. We'll try that. Epiphany propulsion. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Lora. Thank you, listeners. We'll speak to you very soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Simon.